Hello, and welcome to How Best Friends Animal Society protects critical VMware data and applications to protect animals nationwide. My name is Anthony Fiore, Partner Solutions Architect for Amazon Web Services, and I'll be your host and moderator for today's presentation. When you join today's webinar, you selected to join by either phone call or your computer audio. If for any reason you'd like to change your audio selection, you can do so by accessing your audio pane in the control panel. From this control panel, you'll also have the opportunity to submit questions from today's presenters by typing your questions into the questions panel. We will collect the questions and address as many as we can during the Q&A session at the end of today's presentation. Also at the end of today's event is a brief survey. Please stay connected until the end of the broadcast and submit your feedback as your opinions count. Lastly, the PowerPoint presentation will be available through SlideShare along with a recording of the webinar on YouTube via an email that will be sent 2 to 3 days after the conclusion of this event. So keep an eye out for the follow-up email sent to the address you provided. Again, welcome to today's live webinar, How Best Friends Animal Society Protects Critical VMware Data and Applications to Protect Animals Nationwide. My name is Anthony Fiore, Partner Solutions Architect for Amazon Web Services, and I'll be your host and moderator for today's webinar. Today, you'll learn about how Best Friends Animal Society saves animals and data, cloud data management with Veeam and Amazon Web Services, and storage on AWS. In addition to hearing from AWS, we'll also hear from Brent Bain, Senior Cloud Architect at Best Friends Animal Society, and Dustin Albertson, Solutions Architect at Veeam. And remember, please post your questions in the chat box throughout this presentation, as we will review questions at the end of today's event. To begin, I'd like to start by introducing Brent Bain, Senior Cloud Architect at Best Friends Animal Society.
Hello, everybody. I'm going to apologize in advance. I'm in our Salt Lake City facility, and they just brought in a group of new dogs, and they're all very excited. So if you hear barking in the background, I do apologize. So a little bit about Best Friends. Best Friends is a 501c3 nonprofit. We focus on saving animal lives. We do nationwide outreach with shelters, rescue groups, and members to help promote pet adoptions, animal rescue efforts, and we're working to bring about a time of no more homeless pets. Best Friends Animal Society was started by a group of founders in 1984 as a single sanctuary on about 4,000 acres. That sanctuary, also our headquarters, is located in a Red Rock Canyon in southern Utah. It's near several national parks, including the Grand Canyon, Zion, and Bryce Canyon. The sanctuary has about 30,000 people visit every year and is currently the nation's largest no-kill sanctuary for companion animals. Today, the sanctuary has over 100 buildings, most of which are connected via fiber optics and an indoor-outdoor wireless network covering nearly 3,000 of those acres. We also have a small on-prem data center. And on any given day, the sanctuary has around 1,800 animals. It's not just dogs and cats, but we also have horses, donkeys, goats, pigs, birds, rabbits, and even a wildlife rehabilitation center. Best Friends has also expanded nationally. We've opened locations in Salt Lake City, it's where I am today, as well as 2 locations in Los Angeles, one in Mission Hills and one in Santa Monica. We have one in Atlanta and our newest location in the Soho district of New York. Across all our locations, we have nearly 2,500 animals available for adoption. I hope all of you will consider visiting one of our regional adoption centers, whether it is to volunteer, take a tour, or just visit our unique locations. Currently, we know that there's 2,200 cats and dogs killed in shelters nationwide every day. It doesn't have to be this way. Our goal is to end the killing in our nation's shelters by 2025, helping to lead to a time when there is no more homeless pets. Now, in 1984, when the founders originally set up Best Friends, we know that there were about 17 million pets killed in shelters annually. However, we have very little data about what the actual save rate looked like. In fact, it wasn't until 4 years ago when Best Friends led a nationwide effort to retrieve and share data from private and public shelters that we were able to include data about save rates. In July of 2019, we know that we're down to just 733,000 animals killed annually, That's a 77% save rate. We're on the verge of being able to bring the nation to a 90% save rate by 2025. Now, another way of looking at that metric is to say that 100% of healthy shelter pets are being adopted. And as we continue to get more data, we modify our KPIs. We don't really want to just stop at saving 90% of shelter animals. After all, our goal is to save them all. Until we began that nationwide program to gather data, we only had our instincts on where to focus our efforts. Once we did have access to shelter statistics, we began to see patterns and realized that some states were ahead of the national average and some states were lagging. We are now in a position to make decisions based on data and metrics, allowing us to focus our efforts on those states that need our help the most. We recently launched a community dashboard on our website where you can see maps like this one showing where we are focusing our efforts, as well as up-to-date information on your own local shelters in the surrounding communities. We highly encourage people to visit our new dashboard to see how your local shelters are actually performing. Now, our 2025 goal has a plan behind it, working in 3 primary areas. We're working on saving lives. We've worked hard to transform the adoption process. You might remember back in the day when you had an adoption form and it could be 7 or 8 pages long. We're down to just a single page. We have large, welcoming, home-like adoption rooms so you can see what an animal actually looks like in your living room. We've launched a telemedicine veterinary application that you can download and use today. And we're working with all families to help find a way to bring home a new family member. That includes things like low-cost veterinary services, pet food vouchers for low-income families, and a whole lot more. We're also working on uniting the movement. We are actively working to grow our network of more than 2,500 animal welfare partners across all 50 states. We provide information about how to transform their adoption process and share knowledge on how to run effective adoption campaigns. We're taking a hard look at the data and helping transport animals to areas where they are more likely to be adopted. For example, in the Pacific Northwest, they frequently run out of adoptable cats. And Southern California has an abundance of kittens every spring. Using predictive analytics, we are working to transport kittens from Southern California to the Pacific Northwest before they're ever out of adoptable cats. We're also working to mobilize the public. With the opening of our most recent pet adoption center in the heart of Manhattan, we've created a location that will reach millions of people each year. And we continue to raise awareness around adopting before buying an animal by doing things like having a great web presence, using Alexa skills and chatbots on Facebook and our website, helping you find your next adoptable animal. With our constant focus on saving lives with data, saving our data becomes just as important. Now, as I mentioned, Best Friends headquarters is in rural southern Utah, just outside the city of Kanab. And when I say remote, I'm really not joking around. Kanab has 2 stoplights, 3 fast food restaurants, and 2 locally owned grocery stores, no chains. We have 1 fiber connection for the entire city of Kanab fed through 1 ISP. When a fiber cut happens, and they really do happen, the entire city goes dark. 911 services stop working, banks shut down, grocery stores can only take cash, and restaurants who use SaaS-provided registers scramble to even find calculators. Now, as Best Friends continues to grow nationally, we've been slowly migrating our technology headquarters out of Kanab and into Amazon Web Services. Originally, when we had a fiber cut, the entire organization would shut down. But having AWS as our centralized technology hub has helped alleviate that. We have moved several critical organization-wide applications to AWS and continue to grow that presence. However, our headquarters had the opposite problem. We need to be able to provide services at our Kanab headquarters that do not fit well with having them in the cloud when there is a fiber cut. Life-saving applications like our veterinary software, our digital X-ray machines, as well as other services like an IoT water pump controller and a gas pump. We need to be able to easily provide a backup and DR solution for the virtual machines in our on-prem data center. Now, 5 years ago, when I started at Best Friends, we were almost entirely already virtualized. We had 2 servers running internal applications running on AWS, and we hosted our website on AWS, but that was it that we were doing out on AWS services. On-prem, we used Veeam to perform backups, and those were to a NAS. And then one of us system engineers would then take the hard drives out of the NAS and drive them down the road just 8 miles away to the city of Kanab and put them in a bank vault. Now, after I was there for a little while, we started to try and make improvements to that process. We stood up a server in a colo facility in St. George, Utah. And then we used Veeam, a Veeam backup copy job to actually replicate backups from the on-prem NAS to that location. Now, this worked pretty well. However, we still had some gotchas. St. George, while quite a distance for the fiber, is actually on the same fault plane and is impacted by the same torrential monsoons and flood patterns that affect Kanab. We also weren't doing a 3-2-1 backup. That's 3 copies, 2 location, 1 offsite. We had 2-2-1. And we still had that 1 fiber line and cuts that were happening, and they continue to happen at least twice a year. Now, after the recent release of Veeam, we began rethinking our backup and DR architecture. Our headquarters sits on 5,000 acres, so we have some isolation between buildings. And those 5,000 acres are actually on 2 different floodplains. Our data center is actually on a fairly low point. In fact, I've gone in during a monsoon storm and seen about ½ an inch of water on the floor. It's terrifying. So I wanted to make sure that I accounted for a flood taking out our data center and along with it, our internet connectivity. So we added a NAS in a second building that we do a backup copy to. And then we utilized the new capacity tier of the scale out repository feature in Veeam to copy data to S3. And with that, to an entirely different region of the country. Now, we took some time to plan and test that solution out. We have a relatively low RTO and RPO for animal care applications since they directly affect the lives of animals, and we didn't want to lose that connectivity, or I'm sorry, that capability. But after 2 months of planning and testing, and then a single day of actually making the changes, we migrated away from the colo facility to our offsite backups and putting those in AWS for our offsite backups and putting those in the AWS S3. By doing so, we're spending nearly $3,500 less per month. We don't have that additional hardware and operating system to manage. We're also doing cross-region DR, and we're now backing up critical animal care app machines that have never been virtualized. We still have that single ISP, so we haven't solved for fiber cuts, but we have solved for many other DR scenarios by utilizing the capacity tier from Veeam and S3 storage. Thanks to Veeam and our integration with AWS, we have a highly scalable and cost-effective backup and DR solution, allowing us to focus on our goal to save them all. Now, let's hear from Dustin Albertson from Veeam Software.
Thank you, Brent. It's going to be hard to follow that up. It's very interesting with the story with the dogs and the cats and how you're trying to save them all. So as Brent and Anthony said, my name is Dustin Albertson. I'm the Senior Cloud Solutions Architect for Global Alliances at Veeam. I handled the AWS account and a couple of others. So let me give you first a brief overview of what Veeam is and who Veeam is. Veeam started as a specialized provider of virtual data protection. We expanded that to a brand division of enabling availability for the modern data center. However, the data center is now no longer the dominant driver of data. Systems and applications have seemed to sprawl across on-prem and cloud environments now. So we have now focused on protecting the data no matter where it resides, either be it on-prem or in the cloud. Veeam's solutions for AWS are threefold currently. We have cloud data retention, which is what Brent just spoke to. We have a feature called cloud mobility, and then we have data protection capabilities for AWS workloads running in AWS, as well as VMware Cloud on AWS. So firstly, we'll talk about Veeam backup and replication on vCloud. I'm sorry, VMware Cloud on AWS. In 2017, Veeam released an availability report, and in 2019, we followed up with a cloud data management report. But 2 years on from that last report, the findings were still concerning. Nearly 3/4 of businesses recognize that they are still unable to meet users' demands for uninterrupted access to applications and data, only slightly lower than the 82% that was reported in our first report in 2017. The gap is causing business critical challenges from damage to customer confidence, brand integrity, right through to losses of hundreds of thousands of dollars an hour. Data availability and recovery are critical to business success, and outages can create serious problems. Some of the key findings in this report are that application downtime cost the average organization $20.1 million globally in lost revenue and productivity. And only 37% are very confident that virtual machines can be recovered within the SLA agreements. On average, respondents have experienced 5 to 10 unplanned outages in the last 12 months, each lasting 65 minutes. So that's some logic on why we're doing this. So what is VMware Cloud on AWS? So VMware Cloud on AWS brings VMware's enterprise class products, their SDDC software products to AWS Cloud with optimized access to native AWS services. Powered by VMware Cloud Foundation, VMware Cloud at AWS integrates VMware's compute, storage, network, and virtualization products, along with vCenter management. And it's optimized to run on dedicated elastic bare metal in AWS instances. Okay, sorry about that, I was on mute. Veeam's seamless integration with VMware Cloud on AWS provides you all the same look and feel of Veeam that you're used to, and a majority of the features that you know and love are still available. You still have the capability of doing backup and file level restores. You can leverage our Veeam Explorers for application consistency restorations. You copy jobs, and you have the ability to replicate VMs from on-prem into VMware Cloud on AWS or vice versa. And then you have the capability to leverage AWS services like the AWS Storage Gateway to do VTL. But what about EC2 instances? So for EC2 instances, we're going to leverage our agents to protect those instances running inside of AWS. These agents provide features that might not be there otherwise. Just to name a few of these, change block tracking. We have a CBT driver that improves backup performance and decreases the backup window for server workloads. In comparison to existing driverless change tracking, this helps you meet the stringent business requirements for mission critical applications and high transactional workloads. You also have file indexing and search. It catalogs files to provide you with searching of those files to restore without having to know its precise location or when it was deleted. It also has the integration into Veeam Backup and Replication's full product so that you can provide management there, and as well as being able to send those backups to S3. And transaction log backups, so databases, SQL databases, Oracle databases that you're running, you're able to achieve those lower RPOs. And as I mentioned earlier, the application explorers, this is a built-in product in Veeam, so it's not something that you're going to pay extra for. But what it enables you is a much faster, easier, or granular recovery option when you're restoring from an Active Directory, Exchange, SharePoint, SQL, Oracle. It provides you the ability to peer down into that backup and find exactly what you're wanting to restore and restore it more efficiently. And finally, Veeam Agent for Linux for protecting the Linux agents that are running in EC2. Gives you the same type of capabilities. You have the change block tracking, support for multiple jobs, so maybe you can send it to different locations, different regions. And again, it has that same integration with Veeam Backup and Replication. So now that you have that data, you've either backed up, from VMware Cloud or from on-prem or EC2, what are you going to do with that data? Why would you like to use the cloud for data retention? Data growth and compliance requirements are demanding longer-term data retention. This is driving the need for scalable, low-cost data storage solutions. IT admins can leverage lower-cost object storage to reduce their spending, and you can also use this tiered approach at storing that data. What the market is saying here. So why the cloud? ESG released a data protection landscape report in October of 2018 that stated 66% of the customers have a mandate to reduce on-prem hardware storage cost, and just that 47% believe that the cloud is the most effective backup media. And as you heard earlier from Best Friends, how they leveraged AWS and Veeam Cloud Tier to answer that problem. So this is a look at the architecture of Veeam Cloud Tier. Veeam Cloud Tier is a built-in automatic tiering feature of scale-out backup repository. It enables you to offload older backup files to more affordable storage, such as AWS S3 or on-premises object storage. Here you can see that the standard scale-out backup repository setup, you have direct attached storage or network attached storage or even dedupe appliances working with the scale-out backup repository as a performance tier where backups are stored for efficiency and speed. And then from there, the capacity tier feature comes into play by moving the backup files to object storage for long-term data retention. Here we could take a look at what we're doing when we're tiering off those files, because it comes into play here in a second, and we'll get into some of the reasoning behind it or features or why we made the feature this way. So when we are moving or tiering a backup from on-prem or the performance tier to the capacity tier, which is cloud-based, we're breaking the metadata up, storing the metadata in the cloud, and then we're also sending those data chunks into the cloud as well. But what we're doing is we're shrinking that backup file to be much, much smaller, usually under 100 meg, and keeping the metadata local as well. Why do we do that? Well, the reasoning is it serves as a local cache to reduce the cloud I/O. The reason why we do that is we can search those files to find out exactly where an object is and just pull back just the needed object, thereby saving you time, saving you cost, egress charges, things like that. It's just to be more efficient. All of the features in Veeam still work with that. You can do instant VM recoveries. You can restore the entire computer. You can still do file or item level restores. It doesn't matter that once it's been moved or tiered off. And the intelligent block recovery feature that I kind of hinted to earlier is that the restores are going to use the closest non-offloaded restore point. What that means is a lot of times when you're taking backups and you're moving backups around, some of the blocks are always going to be the same. So if a block resides closer, we're going to restore that. We're going to use that block rather than pull it from object storage and make you incur more charges or efficiency of speeds. And all of this feature is provided with no charge. We're not going to charge you for the amount of data you send into the cloud. It's a capability that's built into Veeam. So, we're not going to double tax you because you're going to pay for the storage, that you're using in AWS. We're not going to make you, pay for that double. And one of the key features of this is that we're not going to lock you into anything with Veeam. This is your data. You own it. So whenever you back up with Veeam and you tier it off into S3, you can use any version of Veeam. So you can deploy the community edition, which is a free edition that we have. You can deploy that, connect it up to the S3 bucket, and restore those backups out. So, if in the future you decide to go with another product, or for whatever reason you don't have access to your license file, you can deploy, an easy to use free version and still have access to that data. And lastly, the Veeam Cloud Mobility. So this is a marketing name for a feature called Direct Restore to AWS. Why we're doing this is it's all about getting that data and having options to restore. So whether that be on-prem, VMware Cloud, AWS, and so forth. So what we're looking to do again is make that backup be portable. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the session, it's all about your data and protecting that data no matter where it resides. Why? Again, ESG, pointing back to that ESG report, in 2018, ESG said that 23% of backups are expected to be in the cloud by 2020, which is coming up very quickly. The figures to the right that you see on the screen here are from the Veeam availability report. These findings were customer feedback. These findings and customer feedback are what drive our product strategy. They're just some of the reasons why we created this Restore to EC2 feature. What is it? So any Veeam backup, whether it be on-prem, Veeam Agent for Windows, Veeam Agent for Linux, any Veeam backup that's stored in a repository has the ability to be restored into an Amazon EC2 instance. It's a pretty powerful feature when we're looking at some of the capabilities. So once you've moved that data into S3 in the cloud tier, you have the ability to restore that into an EC2 instance without having to come back on-prem. So again, you can deploy that community edition, or you can deploy a Veeam server inside of Amazon and be able to connect to that bucket, restore that data directly into EC2, providing you, the availability to that data that you are already tiered off to Amazon. It's an easy to use product. There's two steps. The first step is going to be inserting your cloud credentials into Veeam, and then the second step would be running through the restoration wizard. Some of the cool features of it is that when you're going through that wizard, you can select any Amazon EC2 instance, and it will provide you with a price calculation, an estimate, a price calculation to run that that instance per month. We also do a UEFI to BIOS conversion for some of those backups that you may have done that are using UEFI on-prem. So those are some of the reasons, why, and some of the products that are helping you get your data into Amazon, and why we're doing some of that. I want to hand it over to Anthony Fiore to finish up and tell us a little bit more about AWS storage.
Thanks, Dustin, and thanks, Brent. So let's begin by talking about our global infrastructure. So as Brent mentioned, part of his solution was being able to replicate a third copy off to our Ohio region. So Brent was able to leverage AWS's global infrastructure, which currently has 22 geographical regions, 1 local region, 69 availability zones, and actually 191 POPs. So these are our CloudFront edge locations. We're adding. Our global infrastructure is growing so quickly that our slides are out of date quicker. Are out of date quicker than we can update them, just due to our massive growth in global infrastructure. So this helps customers in a number of ways. So being able to deploy globally in minutes is really a key feature of our infrastructure. So whether you want to have a copy of your data in in Ohio, or whether you want to have it halfway around the world in another country or another continent. AWS's global infrastructure can definitely help you get there. And you'll notice that there are 3 green circles on this global infrastructure map. Those represent the 3 regions that we've announced that will open in 2020, which are in South Africa, Indonesia, and Italy. So some of the core components of our storage solutions, Dustin mentioned Amazon S3. So those are kind of like think of them as the building blocks for our partner solutions. So solutions like Veeam are able to take advantage of our AWS storage services and build on top of them. So Veeam is an AWS technology partner of ours, and they help our customers leverage those storage offerings and use them in ways that help our customers, much in the same way we've helped Brent and his team utilize those services. We've also got AWS consulting partners that, while they don't provide the actual software solution, they are more on the deployment and management. So they're more hands-on keyboard, helping our customers both decide, help them to select as well as implement those AWS and partner services. So looking at the overall AWS storage portfolio, it is quite vast, and it's grown a lot, and it continues to grow. So if we look at some of the core building blocks on here, we've got obviously Amazon S3 and Amazon S3 intelligent tiering. We've also got Amazon S3 Glacier, our storage, which is our colder storage class. We'll go to that in a future slide. But those are basically the building blocks of our object storage, which our customers are able to utilize to really get very durable storage that's also very low cost, and with very little management needed. So you don't have to stand up infrastructure on premises or anything to take advantage of this. So that's what's great about that's one of the real benefits about using AWS. So we've also got our block storage in Amazon EBS, which is our elastic block store, which is attached to our EC2 instances, as well as our Amazon EC2 Instance Store, which is attached to certain EC2 instance families, such as our i3 Metal used in VMware Cloud on AWS offerings. And then we have our file storage. So we've got Amazon EFS, which is our elastic file system, and our Amazon FSX. So Amazon FSX is available in 2 flavors. We've got Amazon FSX for Windows, and we've got Amazon FSX for Lustre, which are fully managed file storage services from Amazon and from AWS. Towards the bottom of the page, we've got our data transfer. We've got AWS Direct Connects, which is very popular with our customers in terms of being able to provide them consistent low latency performance to various AWS regions at high speeds. We've also got, there are other customers who run, who don't have the ability to do direct connects. We also have a VPN. They can also run VPN. We've got our AWS Snowball offering, as well as Amazon S3 transfer acceleration and our storage gateway products. So storage gateway, especially tape gateway, is used pretty heavily by a lot of our customers who are utilizing Veeam. So they've found a lot of success in using that to help them no longer have to worry about managing tapes on site or physical tapes. So as I said, Amazon S3 has a number of different storage classes available for different use cases and different cost profiles. So as you look left to right, we've got towards the left, we've got the more active and what we'd consider hot storage classes. In the middle would be our kind of our warmer storage classes, and to the right would be our cold storage classes. So we've got to the left, we've got our S3 standard and our S3 standard intelligent tiering storage classes, which are very popular in that they provide a minimum of 3 availability zones in which data is replicated. Towards the middle there in our infrequently accessed data, we've got standard infrequent access and 1 zone infrequent access, which is great for customers who store a lot of data but don't frequently access them. So you're actually paying less for your storage costs than for, say, S3 standard. As well as to the right, we've got our active data, our archive data class, which is our classes, which are Amazon S3 Glacier, and our newest member of the storage class family, which is the Amazon S3 Glacier Deep Archive storage class. So these are definitely for more archival use cases, but for data that does not need to be frequently accessed and needs to be stored long term, this could be a very attractive option for our customers. So in talking to customers, we see a lot of common backup and restore challenges. It's difficult to back up systems at scale. So as more systems are added to backup, as well as just as retention builds over time, think about having to just add new tape libraries or manage new tape libraries, for example. There's a lot of manual pieces that we see customers having challenges with. So utilizing AWS storage solutions as well as partner solutions like VMware Backup and Recovery, backup and replication really helps to solve some of these manual backup challenges. Also high cost. It's not cheap to run storage on premises, and especially when you need to over provision and there's refresh cycles going on, and as things are being added, there's a lot of cost involved. So AWS storage solutions really help to bring some of those costs down for our customers, as well as compliance needs, both in how our customers need to archive that data, report on that data, in addition to just some of the challenges just from a compliance perspective in terms of which certification they need to be part of. And we're going to see that in a future slide, and some of the certifications that AWS has out there that our customers can leverage by utilizing our services. So some of the benefits of AWS for backup and restore. So these solutions are all integrated. So by utilizing multiple solutions, you can now optimize your storage solutions by integrating multiple AWS services. An easy way to do that, for example, is just think of lifecycle policies with S3. So really help to lower your costs over time as data ages. So it's also very secure. So AWS we encrypt our data both in transit and at rest. And customers can choose, can have a choice in terms of what of how they secure their data, whether it be AWS managed keys or customer managed keys. It's our backup and restore offerings are very secure. It's also easy to maintain. Again, nothing to really buy on premises. It's a simple interface, whether it be our AWS management console, whether it be APIs, or whether it be just using a partner solution like Veeam. All those make it very simple. And scalability is also a real benefit here. So you don't need to worry about over provisioning, and you don't have. And as you decommission systems or as you no longer need them, you can automatically scale up or down as required. And last, one of the key benefits of using AWS for backup and restore is that you only pay for what you use. So you're not going to have to pay in advance for anything. You're just paying for what you're consuming. So this is the slide I was referring to earlier, and some of the key AWS certifications and assurance programs. For those of you who have been around for a while, you know that some of these certifications are incredibly hard to achieve, and to try and do this in a data center is, there's a lot of effort that goes into that. So one of the key benefits of using AWS services is that our customers are able to leverage these certifications, through the use of our services without having to do them in their own data centers. So that's a real nice benefit to them. And also just wanted to touch on the AWS Shared Responsibility model. So this is key for our customers to understand in terms of who's responsible for what. So AWS is responsible for the security of the cloud, and our customers are responsible for the security in the cloud. So AWS will manage, say, the host operating system, the virtualization layer of the underlying hardware itself, down to the physical data centers, for example, but it will not actually manage, and that's on the virtualization layer. It will not actually manage the EC2 instance operating system. So that's really where our customers need to be. That's a customer responsibility in terms of operating system patching, firewall configurations, data protection, how that's encrypted. And utilizing a partner like Veeam really helps our customers kind of meet some of these responsibilities. So this is a key point to point out. So with that, I'm going to open it up to questions. So the first question I have here is for Brent. This is for you. I think you said that there were increased hardware needs, and you saved $3,500 during that period. Can you tell me where you had the cost savings?
Yeah, sure. We had a dedicated circuit from our Kanab location to the colo facility in St. George. So we were paying for that dedicated circuit, which we no longer needed, as well as the actual hardware and storage system in the St. George colo facility. So we were ultimately paying the colo facility to manage the hardware for us. So between that and the dedicated circuit, the storage there was a lot more expensive than S3 object storage. So we were able to utilize that, the S3 storage to good effect. And I forgot to mention, but we're actually thinking that we'll see an additional cost savings as soon as we start moving some of our backups from standard S3 storage to infrequent access or Glacier. So that's on our roadmap. It's just not quite yet implemented.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yep.
Our next question is going to be for both Dustin. This is going to be for you and for me. I have a small company but want to take advantage of the cost savings and ease of using the cloud. Does this solution work for me? Dustin, you want to start?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. I would say, yeah, it does. Again, Veeam has what we call instance-based licensing, or we just updated the naming of it, but essentially you're paying for the amount of VMs or instances that you're backing up. So you don't have to buy these large, additions to be able to, leverage most of these features. As well as, again, we're not charging you for storage. We don't charge you for the amount of backup storage you're using and things like that. And giving you the ability to back up onto local storage for X amount of time, and then tiering that off automatically to S3 to save even more money, or S3IA like Brent just mentioned. And then you could probably add on to why you would use one over the other.
Sure. Thanks. And just to expand on that, so from an AWS perspective, What's nice is you can start small with AWS. You're only paying for what you use, right? So you start small, and as you grow, you're only going to be paying for that. It's a consumption-based model, so you don't have to pre-purchase your storage, whether it be on S3 or even if you look at, say, our tape gateway, for example, right? If you want to take advantage of using our storage gateway tape gateway or virtual tape library product with Veeam, you don't need to worry about buying a tape library, buying tapes, any of that. That's going to really be pay as you go. So that can really help small companies save money, yet still be very innovative in terms of how they use both Veeam and AWS products.
Yeah, and just to add on to that as well, I mean, some of the features that we have with the product as far as doing restorations out of it, or how we write data to object, help save time and potential charges when you're doing restorations and things like that. So it's all about the efficiency of getting that data to AWS, as well as working with it once it's up there.
That's a great point. All right, so I see we have one more question, and this is for me. How is pricing for AWS determined, and where can I find detailed information on pricing? So pricing for AWS is determined. So there's a couple of factors. Yes, so you're going to pay for what you use, but it's also going to be specific to the AWS service, that you're using. So there's going to be different pricing models for, say, Amazon S3 than Amazon EBS, for example, right? The best way to find detailed information on that is by going to our website, which is aws.amazon.com/pricing, and that will take you to show you some of the pricing examples out there, and will also has links to some of these to our services to show how the pricing models for each are determined.
Hey, Anthony, real quick, I'm going to kind of throw Brent a curveball here, but
Sure.
I was wondering if you could, answer or let us know where we can find out more information about Best Friends, since they have such a, a unique organization, and maybe some of the animal lovers there like myself who have a mini farm can, find out more information about them.
Yeah, absolutely. If you go to bestfriends.org, right there, you can find out all about Best Friends. Like I said, we have locations around the country. We have events in even more locations. Each fall, we do a Strut Your Mutt fundraiser that is, last I heard, was in 50 cities last year, and I think they're hoping to get to 75 this year. So there's, you can find out all sorts of information on our website, as well as visiting any of our locations.
Thanks for that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, with that, thank you all for attending today's webinar. Please remember to stay connected and complete the brief survey at the conclusion of this webinar. We look forward to supporting you in your current and future projects. Thank you again, and have a great day.